Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game. This is the host of this podcast, Connor McCabe. And on the show, you'll probably know that we not only hear from a guest on what makes video games special to them, and usually talking about one in particular, both what made the game special and wonderful and lovely, as we usually get into the context that tied that game to their memory. But today, we've got a special one coming at you where we're not doing that at all. This is, for all intents and purposes, our holiday special stand-in where myself and one lucky guest are going to discuss our top 9 games of the year that are not from this year. That's right, folks. We're bringing back another Super NPCs favorite topic to discuss here on the public feed. If you're fans of the network, then you know we did one of those. We brought back from the grave. We dug open the grave, got a shovel. It was really nasty work. We felt bad about doing it, but we got out an old topic from Super NPCs as well and did that on Jeremy's show, Video Games a Comedy Show, where we discussed the top 9 games that we missed from the year. Basically, our biggest gaming miss regrets. But yeah, today we're going to talk about the best games we played, rank them that did not get published this year. A little bit of housekeeping up top is that anything that we plug today, you can find a link in the show notes. So whether it's social media, another podcast, or our Patreon at Super NPC Radio, if you follow the link there, you will find all sorts of gorgeous stuff. I am joined by one person today. It's probably obvious based on my introduction, so please welcome to the microphone for the umpteenth time, writer and soon-to-be student, Jeremy Schmidt.
Oh my gosh, you're going to have to, come January 16th, you're going to have a whole new intro for me. I'll be current student.
I will never have you on the podcast again once you go back to school. I'll let you know, Jeremy. This is pretty much it for you.
And I think, I don't know if we've ever really filled the listeners in on what exactly I'm going back to school for. So let me go ahead and just announce that here on this show. I'm going to karate school.
Karate school. A little bit of hi-ya your education.
Yeah, exactly. Hiya education.
Oh, that would have...
Yeah. Why didn't I... That's exactly what you said.
I overthought it just a hair. Just a hair.
You just had a more dramatic hiya.
Did. Yeah. Little did I know hi-ya worked on its own. Jeremy, good to have you back, buddy. We've been doing a ton of podcasts here on our, our classic final stretch of the year where it seems like we do, 7 to 12 podcasts between the two of us.
Yes.
For the listeners who are on the Patreon or maybe our YouTube viewers, we're going to have an episode that I think is actually coming out this same week that this episode drops on the Patreon. Our final co-op episode of the year where we discussed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 with Joan Ford and Jacques Maladou. So, Jeremy, this is just another one of our marathons. And even when we're recording this, Game of the Year for Video Games a Comedy Show, our 2-part episode monster has yet to be recorded. So we're living in this interesting space where the listeners,
the listener knows more than we do about what's... Yeah.
They've heard episode 1. They've heard
part
all
1.
of the awards given out, but they know what won Best Music of the Year. They know what won Bowser's Worst Trend in Games Award. But Jeremy, I've been kind of monologuing a little bit. How are you, pal? How are things going for you leading up to this this break in our Game of the Year stuff?
Great. I always feel like I think this is just a product of ADHD. Shout out in the comments. Shout out on the Discord if you also have ADHD and you've noticed this to be true. But I'm really good when I've waited too long and I've put myself in a bad place where I need to I need to go and I need to go now.
Yes.
Then I'm great. I'm really, really good.
Don't give this guy time. That's bad.
Well, the thing is, I do have time all year to do it, and I won't. But then I get into this little trouble, and then I'm in that zone now. So I'm taking care of. You know when you get a big itemized list and you're just crossing stuff off.
Yes.
And it just feels so good and so freeing to do that. That's where I am today.
Dude, I can relate in some ways. I know we've been in a lot of discussion about this end of the year. Not only do we have all of our podcasts that we do for the network, but just other life stuff. And as each day goes by, I am also doing the same, checking things off my list, checking it twice, if as some might say. And it feels really good. It's nice to, like today, before we hopped on, I spent some time. Well, first of all, Jeremy, today I went and had I had a dental procedure today, and I'm having another one tomorrow. How about that?
Oh boy, that's a procedure?
I went in for a cleaning recently, and the doctor was like, "Hey, so you've got an old crown that's sort of like becoming problematic and like kind of not like removing itself from your tooth." And so today I had the old crown removed. They are making the mold for the new crown, and tomorrow they will place the new crown. But I did that, which is, so check that off my list, Jeremy.
Yeah, cross it off.
I prepared the episode of Call Me By Your Game that comes out tomorrow, the Lego Island episode, which you sent me. And now I'm just looking at, I mean, this is the last podcast before Game of the Year to record, which is huge. It'll leave me with 2 more to edit, and the listeners want to listen to the homework of it all, right?
Yeah, they like this. I mean, to be honest, though, if they're a real fan, they enjoy the peek behind the curtain, baby.
So, listeners, just know once we roll credits on this episode, and that's how I'm going to refer to it, I've got 2 more episodes to schedule and make videos for it. We're going to do it, Jeremy. We're right there.
You're right there at the finish line. This is always an exciting time of year. And the thing is like, these episodes have been so fun, I've not wanted to phone them in. I've wanted to I want to come prepared. So today I made a very, very thoughtful list for this.
Ooh, good.
But I gotta say, these are like the most fun episodes. The lists where I get to make a little private list. That's like way more fun than, building Adobe Audition projects and stuff. That's
100%.
That's a different kind of fun, but this is all just good stuff.
Totally. And we talked about it. I kind of prefaced this earlier and we discussed it on your show, but this is a topic that we did for years on Super NPCs, that old bonus show that's now retired. If you're a patron and listening, you know that at literally any paid tier, you have access to all 180 episodes. But I really look forward to these two because they're kind of holiday tradition, if anything. So, Jeremy, I got one question for you before we actually get into the top 9 games of the year not from this year. And
yes.
and I might be opening up a can of worms, but give me a little brief summary. What are your gaming plans for the holidays?
Oh, great question. Well, I will be I think during the next couple of weeks. So after, Thursday, I'm done with just about everything that I had hanging over me.
Gorgeous.
Period. So I won't there'll be barely anything for me to do for the rest of the year through January. It'll just be very quiet. So I am planning on playing a lot of video games. Like I'm planning on really digging in, because once I start karate school, I won't know how much time I'll have. It'll be mysterious. So
yes.
I'm gonna definitely. I'm rolling credits on a bunch of the Game of the Year stuff that I didn't get a chance to finish before the holiday. But then immediately after Christmas, I'm going to a cabin to go meet my family out there. We're all meeting for a little cabin vacation, which will be very nice. We're going to do a little snowboarding. It'll be probably a lot of drinking, a lot of games,
a lot of SSX tricky impersonations.
So 2 things. I'm going to make my brother-in-law and my sister bring their Quest 3. There's going to be some VR happening. I love my yearly VR check-in always happens around Christmas time. But then I need to I'm going to be bringing my Switch and catching up on a lot of specifically those games I missed. So we're talking Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake. That's one I really want to get back to. And then big question mark. I actually don't remember other Switch games that I really want to get back to. There are some though. I think there's like some of the indie games that I purchased and didn't get around to playing. So like Pizza Tower is a fun one. I kind of wanted to go through again. But yeah, specifically looking at that Dragon Quest game is something I would like to spend more time with. What about you though?
Well, I'll answer your question so soon. I just wanted to say, like, there's nothing like sinking your teeth into an RPG, a JRPG specifically, that you won't finish around the holidays. Yeah. Like, I did that last year with Octopath Traveler 2. 30 hours, loved it all. The new year started, and I barely even touched it after that, Jeremy.
But I'm jealous. I want to see what's in that game.
It's fantastic. I think it's a lot better than the first one, and I played less of it than the first one.
That's interesting. That's so interesting, actually.
It truly just was more of a product of, like, I am playing a lot more games than I was when that came out in 2018, and it was, like, the only game I was playing. But for me, it's going to be a lot of, because I'm going to be traveling starting this Friday, as of the time of recording, the 20th through basically the 31st. Don't rob me, please. I am going to bring my Nintendo Switch, and I think it's going to be a lot of Switch time. I definitely will be playing, as I've told you, Shovel Knight for the first co-op episode next year, as we're going to be covering, this last year we covered sequels of my choice. This next year we're going to be covering indie games. So I'll be playing Shovel Knight for the first time. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be done with Echoes of Wisdom before then, so that'll be in the can. And then it kind of remains a mystery. Two things could happen outside of just bringing the Switch and getting creative. One is I could bring a second console. I could bring a Nintendo DS with me.
Okay, interesting.
Because we didn't talk about this on our Leftovers episode of Video Games, a Comedy Show, but a game I played like half of this year for the first time was New Super Mario Bros. DS, and just didn't finish it, so I could bring the DS with like that.
And that's a great one for the holidays. Could
be perfect. I got a Professor Layton and the Diabolical Box over Thanksgiving, so I could bring that with me as well. The other, I forget what the term is that I'm looking for, but the other thing up in the air possibility is that, Jeremy, I said this on the episode, but leading up to our PSP Space Solace, I was looking up PSPs on eBay.
Oh, great. And I like where this is going.
And this might be a little embarrassing, but I'm just going to say it. My family is still... We said we were going to tone down gifts a few years ago, as my sister and I are into our 30s. That almost happened and then didn't. And so, and they still... And of course, it's not like, I could refuse things, but turns out I like getting gifts, and they still every year are like, hey, what do you want for Christmas? Send us a little list. When I sent them my list, Jeremy, the thing on there that I was like, hey, if you're looking for one item to get me, it is a PSP 3000 model.
Woo!
And so this may not even happen, but Jeremy, I want you to know, I hope Santa knows I've been a good boy, because boy, I really want a PSP to show up in the year 2024 for Christmas.
Yes, dude, absolutely. Oh, and you know what? And you bring up a good point about like bringing additional consoles, because you're right. There's like a couple of things I've been like digging around in on my Vita, on my 3DS that I really want to get back to, especially after we did the PSP episode. But no joke, that white PSP would look great on you, and I think it's so exciting to be in your 30s and go into a holiday season with something you want.
Yes.
Because it's rare, dude. Like, I had to really... Turns out there was some things I needed.
Yeah.
And like, because we typically for ourselves will just buy things we want, because, we're not exactly flat broke on our ass. Like, we are able to kind of do that. Like,
yes.
And I get that some people can't, but for the most part, adults don't need stuff the same way kids really, really want stuff. So when you got something like that white hot PSP, is stuck in your craw, it's gonna feel great. It feels great, and it feels great to ask for something that you're really gonna appreciate as well.
Totally. It's kind of exciting too, because it almost feels like when I was a kid and would ask for the thing I want, knowing there's a chance that it just doesn't happen. Because there were plenty of Christmases when I got exactly what I wanted, which was like, even if it was kind of a big ticket item, like the year I got a Nintendo Wii was a complete surprise. The year I got like Pokemon Yellow with the Game Boy Color was exciting. But there was also years like when the GameCube came out, that didn't happen. So this feels like that, where I could see my parents being like, we're not going to go and buy this eBay auction PSP for him. We'll go do some other things. But yes, it's very exciting.
But if you sent him a buy it now link,
it was buy it now link.
Your chances are
yes. And my dad's no stranger to eBay. Let's just say that.
Okay, good. Yeah, because my parents wouldn't know what to do with like an auction bidding scenario, but they would definitely be like, buy it now.
Mm-hmm. So I sent that, Jeremy, and I did send a carrying case option because I was like, hey, if you do buy this, please get me a carrying case for it. I'm not raw dogging this in my backpack like on multiple flights.
And then you'll be able to have your little displays, and it's going to look so good next to the Vita. You're going to have these two beautiful PlayStation handhelds. I can see it now. And a third on the way, we hope.
Hey, allegedly. The last thing, Jeremy, is that one thing I haven't, if my master plan all comes to fruition, I didn't ask for any games because I plan to fully hack it. And like, that's the only thing is I've been starting to watch videos on how to get the games you own on your PSP.
Of course.
And it looks like there are going to be some ways to do that with basically what comes in the box, with like a cable and that. So we'll see. But dude,
I know it's supposed to be pretty easy to hack. The Vita was like one of the more difficult hacks I did. It still wasn't that bad, but it was a little bit difficult, and I don't regret it at all. I haven't bought a single game for the PlayStation Vita, and I'm so happy to not do that, to not have anything, to just have this thing. It's loaded. It's ready to go.
Gorgeous.
Don't need those silly little carts.
Little carties. Well, Jeremy, those are my plans and hopes for the holidays, buddy. What do you say we get into our topic for today?
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay, listeners, it is time to finally rank our top 9 games of the year, not from 2024. Like we've said on Video Games, a Comedy Show, the reason we do a top 9 is because back in 2020, when we started this Patreon, we said we're going to be different and obnoxious. So instead of doing a top 10, we've got a top 9. Jeremy, I will go ahead and I'm going to open it up really quick. Do you have any like rules you put on yourself for this? Because I've got a couple rules.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear you say that because I was afraid I was going to be the only one. So here's a couple things. And this is more interesting, I think, for the patrons.
Yes.
For Patreon subscribers. Excuse me. First, I'm going to shout out here in a second a handful of games that did not make the list because I had either because I set this kind of rule for myself, like I had played it before.
Okay, interesting.
Or didn't finish, or didn't feel like that they counted, and they also just kind of didn't make the list for those reasons. So there's a big tie, but I want to shout them out because I spent time with them. But the other thing I did is I didn't include any Games Club games.
Yes.
Not a rule I expected you to adhere to, but I was like, this will be more interesting as if I leave those off. But shout out to Death Stranding. Shout out to Hollow Knight. Shout out to these wonderful games. What about you? What rules did you?
Got some sort of similar rules. I think this is kind of what I've done in the past where the only 2 real rules I have is I've allowed myself to include one from the games clubs. So the 4 clubs we did, there may be one on here. And the other thing I'm saying is I'm allowing myself 1 game from the 12 co-op episodes that we did this year. So those will be on here pretty high up. But that's it for me.
Okay. Well, let me go ahead and shout out a few games that I played this year, but I either didn't finish or felt like I had played them before, so I didn't really want to count them. Final Fantasy VII Remake. I replayed that this year. I replayed that. And I replayed Crisis Core, and I replayed Intergrade.
Dude.
And they're all fantastic. I did the whole suite of Final Fantasy VII stuff before Rebirth came out.
I think I played half of... This isn't on my list either, but I played about half of Remake and Intergrade was a co-op episode or intermission, but it's just not on my list.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. That they didn't make my list because I just thought it'd be more interesting to have them off. Also, Final Fantasy VI was a game that I played about half of. Had a great time. Didn't finish. Still haven't finished. Kind of my biggest gaming regret this year, to be honest with you, is that. And then also, shout out to Super Mario RPG. That was a last year game. But I finished it earlier this year, and it was a remake of a game I had just played not that long ago. Great, fantastic game. Didn't make the list, but that's like a big block of RPG.
Yes.
That I kind of played. Didn't want to have it on the list. Anyways, that's
okay.
I'm now clear and clean.
All right. I'll list a couple of honorable mentions too. Games that I played, just didn't quite make this cut. We have you know what I think? This game wouldn't have made my top 9, but I did forget about it. The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap.
Oh,
first time ever played it. Yeah. I will say, I've maybe talked about this before. I was disappointed. I liked it. I thought it was good, but my expectations for it were higher. I think my expectations are what doomed this game in my heart.
Got it.
Was that, I just thought it was going to be a lot better. I had heard such great things. So for me, it still was really fun, and I'm so glad I did it. Minish Cap. I also, let's see, what else is on here? I replayed TMNT Turtles in Time on the arcade. Did a full run of it for our beat-em-ups night that we did for one of our game nights.
That's awesome. It's so fun that you can do that in like a couple hours.
Yes, so good. I played a crap ton of Mario Party 2 this year. That's just the N64 one I go back to. We've played that a few times together. Did that. We did. Do I not have... Oh, that's funny. There's a game missing from my list. A game that I played for the first time. We actually did a podcast on it. A bonus for the Games Club. BioShock Infinite. I liked. Also, just does not make my top 9. And then we have, let's see, anything else on here I want to list? No, not really. I think I'll leave that off. But why don't we get into it, Jeremy? Maybe I'll kick us off with my number 9 to actually get this countdown started. So my 9th favorite game, not from this year that I played, is NBA Live 2005. Now, Jeremy, it looks like I just spoke Spanish to you, and that's probably because I've never talked to you about playing this game, and that's at least part of it, I'm sure. There's not often surprises for us.
You said this game's called NBA Live?
This is I feel like this is I'm telling my partner about sexual partners I had before we were together.
And sexual moves you did with them that they're very confused about.
This is what I really like that they did.
It's called the Cleveland what, Connor? What?
So NBA Live 2005, Jeremy. NBA Live is a former basketball franchise. It was kind of the king before 2K took over in the late aughts. This game I got for the GameCube. It has Carmelo Anthony on the cover when he was on the Denver Nuggets. And this is a game that me and my friend, Mr. Stephen Loomis, who you've met a handful of times, we would play this. This was our game where we would play back and forth together. We would play pickup games, playing as different teams, basketball, NBA teams from 2005. We would do dunk contests, which we really sucked at. We would do a lot of 3-point contests. This is a real... this isn't going to be my NBA 2K Call of Duty nominee, but Jeremy, this is in that ilk. For me.
That's huge.
I mean, I played it throughout the years, often because we play on the same baseball team together. So on we'd have practice during the season on Thursdays. He would come over almost every week, and so would Amanda, and we'd all get Wendy's and just like play video games together. And NBA Live 05 was my first one. Shout out to who do I want to shout out in the 3-point contest? Who did I use? Oh, Steve Nash is probably the favorite character to use. We'd always fight over Steve Nash. Shout out to the 2005 Sacramento Kings. But yeah, a lot of great back and forth. One of my favorite basketball games of all time. But that's
awesome.
And it's funny because I played 04 more growing up that had Vince Carter on the cover when he was on the Raptors. But this now I think is my favorite one. But yeah, that's my number 9, NBA Live 2005 for the GameCube.
Incredible pick, shocking pick. Just love to be just shocked to my ass, you know?
I know.
So my number 9, as listeners of Video Games a Comedy Show know, so if you listen to both shows, you probably know this. Earlier in the year, the great Tekken 8, the Game Awards fighting game winner came out. Tekken 8 came out. I played every single Tekken game live, like not streamed, but recorded me and guests playing all the Tekkens.
Every Tekken ever.
Every Tekken ever, not with none excluded. So I wanted to honor that entire moment of our lives by putting one Tekken on the list, and I went with Tekken 5.
Ooh,
Tekken 5 to me.
What's special about this one?
To me, when I went back and played every single one, this was the standout of all the Tekken games prior to the PS4, PS5 generation. So, not including 8 and 7, which are very similar and very superior, I would say, to a lot of the Tekkens that came before. Tekken 5 for the PlayStation 2 was the last Tekken on the PS2 before the PS3 came out. I found it to just be the best in the hands, the least sort of clunky. Tekken 4 was very, very slow. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 or 6 would have been fun and interesting, but I feel like they were also just a bit sluggish. Tekken is best when when it's not too fast. You don't want like Street Fighter fast. You still want it to feel like a weight to it, but you do want them to feel agile and limber because it's still a game about sprouting wings and shooting fireballs. So Tekken 5, that to me it's the perfect Tekken of the previous Tekkens, notwithstanding 7 and 8, which are the 2 last ones. So
I love it.
No way to play it. No way to at all to play it. We talked about this on the Tony Hawk co-op.
Yes.
Game preservation needs work. So Tekken 5 right now, you have to play it on the original PlayStation 2 to get it, but it is worth it if you can find it.
Do you remember whose butt you kicked most in Tekken 5? Like whether it was Schnupp or Gaskin or July?
I think Gaskin and I are always going to be like really evenly matched. I would also include Schnupp there. Schnupp, and Gaskin are always evenly matched. July has this preternatural ability to start evenly matched and then just fucking get better after each match. He just gets better and better and better. Although I will say another reason why Tekken 5 might have been my favorite was I think I did the best at this one.
Right, that'll do it.
Yeah, then that'll do it, right? Like so, and I think it was interesting to see some of those guys struggle with some Tekkens, not struggle so much with others, sort of dependent on how the game felt and played. So quite an experiment. Was it worth it? Not sure, but Tekken 5, great.
Last question for you, and apologies if you've already said, if you had to have a main in Tekken 5, who would it be?
Oh, I playing so many Tekkens this year, you start to feel a kinship with some of the old school cats who've been around for a long time. And speaking of cat, it's King, baby. It's that leopard, that freaky leopard wrestler. He's so unique. He's so fun to play. Have you played Tekken? Have you played this guy?
Oh, I know who King is, but
you know who he is?
I probably touched a Tekken 3 times in my life.
Got it. Yeah. There's a lot of great characters. Eddie is a front runner. He's the break dancer. Eddie Gordo. He's great. He's very tricky to beat. If you're, he's kind of a lot of new people can find him very easy to play as because he's so frantic and hard to track his moves. Also, of course, Law. the Bruce Lee like guy is really really great. But it's all about King.
Nice
for me.
Okay, Tekken. It's funny. Tekken 5 and NBA Live 05 both are number 9s. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about we do? We'll just go back and forth. So I'll go my number 8.
Okay.
My number 8, Jeremy, is Uncharted, the first one. Uncharted. What's even the subtitle of it? Is it Drake's Fortune? I think that
it's Drake's Fortune. Exactly. Yes. Wow, nailed it right away.
So by no means of the 2 Uncharted that I played this year was it my favorite. I like two I just think is significantly better in every single aspect. But I'm only allowed to include one co-op, so it's not going to be on the list. But I will say I really enjoyed this experience. You know, it turns out millennial Indiana Jones with 100 times the gunshots is pretty fun. And as someone who's played like a decent amount of Naughty Dog games in my life, from both Uncharted to several Crashes, the first Jak and Daxter, it was kind of fun to visit a blind spot and find a series that turns out I like. It's fun. I even started playing the third one, Uncharted 3. Couldn't tell you the subtitle of that one, but I started it and just kind of in anticipation of the end of the year was like, okay, this doesn't matter. Let's focus on Zelda a little bit. But yeah, I really like this. I played it on a PS4 copy of the that had like the trilogy on it, the original trilogy, and yeah. I know you've played this series. Have you played all of the games in this series?
I actually haven't played Drake's Fortune.
Okay.
I've played the 2, 3, 4, Lost Legacy. I've played everything else but where the series all started. So it's cool to hear that it's so good. You know, I'm wondering what it would be like to go back to, and wouldn't mind checking it out myself. I will also say though, 3's very good if you get around to it.
I liked the first like 3 hours that I played of it. A lot more Sully in that game than is in 2. Sully's not in 2 enough.
Right. Sully, you will miss Sully in 2, but 3 has that great plane sequence that they love to like in the movie with Tom Holland. It's like on the trailer, like they love this plane sequence, and it does not disappoint. It is cool. So.
Well, yeah, that's my number 8, Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. How about yours?
I went with Power Stone as my number 8. So this is kind of crazy. 2 fighting games right away, and let me check. Yeah, no more for the rest of the list. These my two fighters are at the bottom, but at some point before they announced that Capcom was going to do like another fighting game collection that includes Power Stone 1 and 2, I had bought this sort of, souped up Dreamcast that I was so thrilled to get. In fact, I have it hooked up right now. I love this thing. I love playing on this thing. And I decided that, Power Stone's a game I've never been good at. I've always sort of like tried to play with other people, not really gotten it, barely hung in there. I was like, I'm going to actually try to get good at this game, Power Stone. And wouldn't you know it, once you kind of get through that barrier of entry, it's great, and it's as good as anyone has ever said, and it's like so much fun. So a huge recommend for people. I will say that it is kind of tough to get your mind around, especially if you're used to more modern fighters or Smash Brothers. But Power Stone is great. We played it earlier this year, I think, together in a group for fighting game night. Which was so much fun. I believe Patrick brought over his Dreamcast and his copy of Power Stone, which is so awesome. But yeah. So now I feel like if we were to redo that night and I was to come in to Power Stone, I'd be a lot better today. So
that game is so much fun. I would love to play the sequel at some point. And maybe I'll do it on this souped up Dreamcast of yours.
It's so funny you say that because there's nothing stopping me from playing the sequel other than I feel like I need to have a headcanon for both. Like I want to play partly why you played Uncharted 1 and then 2 and then 3. Just even though these games don't necessarily have a linear story that they're telling, I still want to have that feeling of what it was like to not have 2 and then it suddenly comes out and then you're like, oh, wow, more Power Stone. So
All right. Cool. Well, my number 7 is a game I do not own, and that is Mario Party Superstars. Until in this year, and again, it's not Mario Party Jamboree, which came out this year. This is the game that it was either last year or the year before that Superstars came out, and it's more of like a classic collection of like some of the best features and boards and stuff from Mario Parties 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5 or so. Mm-hmm. And I played this almost exclusively on a little vacation that I took, that Amanda and I took with our friends of the show, Mike, Rob, and Austin, out to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Have you played Superstars much?
I haven't. Is that the first Mario Party that came out?
It's the second one.
It's the second one. I don't think I've played any of this one.
It's great, dude. It's awesome. It's like, combines sort of the modern quality of life stuff of Mario Party with the classic mini games and boards from yesteryear. A lot of the stuff we got into on, I know I already mentioned Mario Party 2, but yeah, this game was fun. It's also Mike, Rob, and Austin are all so good at this game. It's so funny to play something with they're not non-gamers, but people who don't play as much stuff as maybe we do, who can kick my ass at it routinely.
Yeah. How do you get good at Mario Party though?
I think it's like a mastery of mini games and pushing the right risk-reward gambling buttons, I think. Because I end up playing these games kind of conservatively, and sometimes in older games that pays off, but it really pays in these newer ones to just take shots and play kind of ruthless. So, yeah. Another group experience on here for me, Mario Party Superstars for number 7. Let's go to you, Jeremy.
Well, my number 7 is sort of, I will say it's one of 2 entries on my list that are a little misleading. Number 7 might make you think that it's kind of lower on my list, but there are 2 entries that are actually the top experiences I had this year. But I just think I kind of wanted to spread them out, so I wasn't talking about them back to back. But really, both these experiences share the same thing, which is that I played it with somebody else, and this is Overcooked. This is a game that I played with my dear and loving wife. Shout out. We don't play a ton of video games together, believe it or not. It's a very rare thing, and to be honest with you, it's not like I'm necessarily pushing for it either. I'm usually very understanding that this isn't something that everybody necessarily wants to do. But we were out with friend of the show, Mikey Stevens. Him and his girlfriend Abby, they play a ton of Overcooked, and they had beaten the entire first game, and we're on to the second, and that sparked something in Jackie, and she wanted to play it. And, my gosh, we got into it, and it was great, dude. I don't know if have you ever played this game?
I finally toyed around with it at someone's house this year, but only for a few rounds or so. And it took me a lot longer to wrap my head around it than I was expecting. I thought I was going to be a master instantly. I was not.
Right. Yeah, it really hones in on your particular communication style, verbal communication style, which is so exciting and weird, and and it's a weird thing for a game to expose in you, which is for me, if I'm in a panic, I'm over talking. So I'm over talking in the kitchen. Meanwhile, Jackie is silent the whole time, and we're in the same stress level. Just we're dealing with it 2 different ways. And it was an exercise in me talking 30% less and her talking 50% more to tell me what's going on with her side of the kitchen, because you have to be constantly I need the dishes. I need this. I need that. I need plates. I need plates. I need buns over here. So it's it was incredible. And we had this rule where they give you a star rating for every course you do, and my rule was we cannot move on unless we get a perfect star.
Wow, rating. That's brutal.
So we would be on stages for literally 30 to 40 minutes just grinding them, getting better and better, and shaving off seconds every time. And it was so much fun. Yeah, I'm so excited to try Overcooked 2 in the new year.
Wow, and you have two. I mean, you're doing the same thing you did with Power Stone.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because I wasn't, a game like this too. I'm just not sure if it's that much different, 1 to 2, or is it just more courses? Because I kind of love sequels like that, where it's just like the sequel is just more Overcooked, and that seems to be what 2 is, to the point where they actually combined both of them for the PS5 release. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like Overcooked something.
Huh.
But it doesn't say this on the game, but it's like 1 and 2 combined and PS5 and redone. So
okay, cool. Maybe the package must. What's the thing where you go have 2 big nasty meals in a row?
Yeah. Oh,
what do they call that?
Not girl dinner.
No, Overcooked : girl dinner is the package.
Overcooked girl dinner.
That rules, Jeremy. For me, my number 6 is a game that I've played a lot in my life, but that I kind of went on a run over a month, maybe not a month, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I would just turn this on with my N64 Switch controller and just go run through Star Fox 64. I mean, this could be on the list almost any year, but it had been a little while since I had actually, I think a little while since I had revisited Star Fox 64, and I never consider this game for one of my favorites, which is nuts because it might actually be one that I don't give the credit that it's due in my own personal list. And I've been playing it forever. It's a game that I know so well, both from the quotes to even just knowing things that are coming up in levels or how to get through certain shortcuts. And it was really fun because I was getting better this year on trying to the rating system that you can have of keeping your partners alive, and getting certain amount of hits. I mean, there's not I'm not going to say anything that's not been said about Star Fox 64 before, but dang, this is just such a fun thing to go back and do runs of. Because I think for the most part, in most of my life, I'll do a run of this and not play it for a year. When I think it's a game that is sort of built, if you were to get this on Christmas Day in 1997, you would play it that day and have beaten the game, at least a run of it. And then why not run it back and see what other paths there are to go down, or how much higher you can get your score?
100%. I mean, I'll tell you this: if I had even touched this game this year, it would be my number 1.
Yeah.
Star Fox 64. The older I get, I'm less and less convinced there's a better game out there. It's so good and it's so fun, and like you said, sort of infinitely loopable. You can just keep going. And to be honest with you, there is a ton of shit in that game. I one time looked it up because I had never looked up the different paths and what you can do. It's so much stuff. It's way more than you think there's going to be in that game. So,
yep.
Great game.
I can't talk about it. I got to do one quote from it. I don't remember who this is. I think this is one of the mech robots you fight in the second level, but he says this when you show up. It's kind of a boss fight at the end of the level. He says this: "Don't party just yet." Probably heard that one a million times. So that's the one quote I'll do today. My number 6 is Star Fox 64. Let's turn to you, Jer.
Yes. My number 6 is a game that so earlier this year I got the TurboGrafx adapter for my Analog Pocket, and was really going hard in the paint with some TurboGrafx games. Had a fantastic time, but this is one that I will go back to forever and just need it now on every platform, and it's on surprisingly a lot of platforms. I think there are modern consoles that you can play this on, and this is Bomberman 94.
Whoa.
Bomberman 94 is it's kind of hard to if you're not a fan of the series and if you haven't followed Bomberman, it might just all bleed together in some sort of Bomberman soup for you. But like, there are some notably high points in the Bomberman series. Bomberman 2 on the NES is like a big high point. But Bomberman 94 and Bomberman Sega Saturn, those are like, that's the big three right there.
Wow.
And Bomberman 94 is the one where he gets a Yoshi.
I could see this. This is awesome.
He gets a kangaroo friend, like that's kind of like an alien, and this game has you going to different planets and basically like saving them through bombs, and like it's just, I don't know what else to say. It's a fantastic game, and it rivals any other game you'd find in the 16-bit generation. A lot of people just didn't play this game, I think, because it wasn't available on a console most people had. But geez Louise, get yourself a copy of Bomberman 94. Yesterday.
Dude, I would have never... You could have given me 100 guesses, and I would have never guessed that you would have had a Bomberman game on here. But a series that, like, we never talk about, I feel like.
But have you ever experienced the pleasures?
Yes, I've played...
Live inside Bomberman.
I've definitely played Bomberman 64. I've definitely played, I think, one on the Super Nintendo, but... and then perhaps there was a Bomberman game that debuted with the Switch, and some friend got it that I played with. But yeah, okay. Your number 6 is Bomberman 94. My number 5 is a game that I almost left off my list, and thankfully didn't. And so I was adjusting this as we began the podcast, Jeremy. My number 5 is Fable: The Lost Chapters.
Oh, great.
I think on our leftovers episode, I talked about how I'd been playing this, and it's been a little while since I've opened it up, but it was kind of a mainstay for me in like October, November, just going down the like halls of like one of my favorite games that I've ever played that is not, while it is not one of the greatest games of all time, there's so much charm and so much that it brought to the table for me at a time where I didn't play a lot of games. So revisiting this thing is so much fun. I mean, I think I got it on a really cheap sale on Steam, and it like all comes flooding back, but just but being able to play it on a really nice computer now is it's so good. I probably got maybe halfway through the main quest of the game. If people out there are familiar, I got through the what do they call it? The arena, the sort of Coliseum story moment, and there is a little something I did after that. But yeah, super fun. I'll probably, honestly, when I don't have stuff to play, we'll probably turn it on and revisit it in the new year as well.
That's great. Fable is awesome, and it's good to see that show up on the list, man. Wow.
Yes, almost got forgotten by me.
I'll turn this on every now and then myself on my Xbox, though, just to.
Oh, yes.
I always have it installed on that, and I'm always looking at it every now and then. Love that game. It fills me with nostalgia, so it's like it's always a great time.
Big time.
I speaking of nostalgia, number 5 for me. Can I throw it out there?
Well, please.
This is a game that came out a little bit before Fable, but I very much put it in the Fable camp of just like bringing me right back to the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, and that is Dark Cloud for the PlayStation 2.
Oh my goodness.
Dark Cloud. Have you ever messed around with Dark Cloud? I'm assuming no.
I just know what the cover looks like.
Okay. It is one of the most interesting PS2 games, and considering how early it came out in the PlayStation 2's lifespan, it makes it even all the more impressive. Dark Cloud is a weird game that, to say it's an RPG is like not exactly right. It's more of like a Zelda. It has more in common with Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Diablo in a weird way. It has you basically dungeon crawling down. The way the game is laid out is this: you arrive at like what is a blank canvas like area, a big area, and there's nothing there, and all you know is there's a city is supposed to be there. And so you start embarking on this quest where you go into these dungeons, and what you're collecting in the dungeons is pieces of the city that you're going to put back and arrange sort of Sim City style.
Oh, whoa.
It's super crazy. It's a very strange game to wrap your head around, but once you get in the flow of it, you'll be going into dungeons, rescuing, like, let's say, the item shop person. And then you can put the item shop person in his item shop, and you can put that item shop anywhere in the town, and you build little roads and little rivers around it, and they have their little preferences for where they want to go. And then you also meet other characters who help you on your quest, like that are playable. And they correspond to like little zones that you go to. It's kind of like a bizarrely like a genre hybrid game. It's like a sim builder, a Diablo dungeon crawler, and but all the combat is Ocarina of Time, like where you're locking on and you're sort of sidestepping enemies and hitting them with your sword.
Now, I can't even tell if, I mean, obviously I should be because it's number 5 on your list. I was about to say, I can't even tell if you like it. What I wanted to say is that you just sold it better to me than anyone has ever sold Dark Cloud. That sounds so interesting.
It's so interesting and so fun and so oddly forgotten, even though it got a kind of a beloved sequel. Dark Cloud 2 is one of these games that everybody, I think, made more money, and more people flocked to it. And I've never played Dark Cloud 2. I don't know if it's the same. But I certainly hope it is, because they were really on to something with Dark Cloud 1. So
okay, nice, dude. Wow, it's so fun. It's like we're on a date, and like we're a couple that still knows how to keep it fresh.
An older couple on a date where they're like surprising each other with weird role-playing games.
Yeah. And isn't that the dream, Jeremy?
And isn't that the dream?
Wonderful. Dark Cloud's your number 5. My number 4 is Backyard Baseball 97. Jeremy, did we discuss how they did a re-release of the original Backyard Baseball this year?
Yes, we did, but this is not what you're talking about, though.
It is what I'm talking about.
Oh, it is what you're talking about. Okay, tell me about
shit.
this.
You know what? I realize... Okay, here's the thing. I realize I've broken the whole rule of the whole episode premise. I'm just going to talk about it anyway. But
talk about it anyway, and I'll tell you why I think it gets a pass.
Okay, is it because it originally came out in 1997?
Yes, essentially, yeah.
Yes.
I think it gets a total pass for that. And I also, because there was a game, it ended up not making it on my list, but it was on my list for the entire time, and that was Nintendo NES World Champions.
Interesting, yeah.
Which is a game that came out this year, but it's all NES game. So anyways, talk at length about this.
Okay, so yeah, I'll make myself feel better about this by saying that also there are literally 0 changes to the game because they don't have the source code to it. The company that owns it now, I think it's Playground Productions, does not have the source code to the original, so they can't go in and make any edits. The only thing that is different in the game is the opening title sequence. They were able to basically add stuff on at the beginning of it, shouting out Mega Cat Productions and Playground Productions who helped on this collaboration. And then I think something at the the end credits go a little longer because they tack on something there too. But I mean, I've talked about Backyard Baseball 2001 a bunch. It's one of my favorite games of all time. 97 is a game that I played a decent amount growing up and is what got me interested in the rest of the series. But because there are just some quality of life things that are non-existent in it, I did not come back to it much as a kid, or even as the years have gone on when I've revisited other titles in the series. I leave this one out or I barely touch it because it looks just slightly worse and it doesn't play as well. But since they re-released it, I bought it on day one and I played through a whole season with my team. What were we, the Wombats or something like that? And dude, it really made me appreciate this game so much more than I have before. And the personality of the 30 kids that they created for this are amazing. The details of the game, the way it plays, the nostalgic sort of just it's literally you use one button the whole game. It's just you click the mouse to play everything. Yeah. even though this is kind of a cheat on my list, it was a real highlight for me this year, just going back to it. They've since released Backyard Soccer, the original game, which I still have yet to go get, but it's also really fun, and they're going to be releasing a lot of the classic ones as they work on new games. But Backyard Baseball 97 is my number 4 game on this list.
It's on the list, folks.
It's on the list.
Put it on there. Set it in stone.
It's so funny. I finally, realizing it, broke my own rule, but here we are.
No, what are these rules if not just a guide to break?
Exactly.
You gotta break them.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me is a number 4 in its own franchise, and that's Persona 4 Golden.
Ooh.
This is a great game. This is a game that, I could sing the praises to you all the livelong day about it, and it still wouldn't quite do it justice. It is one of those all-timers, a classic. I played a lot of this game on my Vita while I was traveling to Japan, which was very fun to be able to be in Japan while playing this game that's very Japanese. And there would be literal things that I would do in the game that I'd be like, we should do that while we're here. Like, we should go and do a thing like this.
We should go take class.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. The game is great. I think what makes or breaks a Persona game for me, and this is as I'm playing what I would consider a Persona-like Metaphor ReFantazio right now. And to be honest, any RPG, it's gotta have a bangin' cast of characters. That's really the one thing you need. I want Tidus and Riku, and I want and Kimari. I want all my friends, and they're all so good, and Waka's there. But this game has a banger cast as well. Just top notch all the way through. The bear, who is. You haven't played a Persona, right?
Not at all. But I think I'd love the series.
I think you would too. It's very, it's very loop based. It's a loop. Each day is its own thing. You have to do a bunch of stuff before the day's over.
Yes.
And then you start it over again. And the whole game basically gives you a set amount of days to complete stuff before it's over. But each one of these Persona games has a friend character who's not a human, kind of. Like in Persona 5, there's a cat, and I only know that just from seeing. I just know that's the character
me too.
in
Yeah.
it. But this one has a bear, and the bear is hella annoying. You actually rescue the bear in Astrobot, which is a really fun part of that.
Nice.
Yeah, but the bears are kind of annoying. But other than that, game's great, and it's my number 4.
Wow, Persona 4. I'm excited. This is not a game that qualifies for this list, but to hear you talk about, Metaphor a little more as we close out the year. My number 3, Jeremy, is a game that has number 3 in the title. And this is my representative for all of the streams we did this year, and that's Halo 3.
Oh, baby!
I needed one of those on this list because we played Halos 1, 2, and 3 all the way through on stream, and we started Reach and fell off, but I think I honestly am having trouble remembering which was my favorite experience. I think it was either 2 or 3, and I'm just gonna my instinct is that we kept liking them more and more as we played them.
It's a good instinct.
Yeah.
It's a good instinct.
Okay, good.
I'm
it was
I'm hinting.
Oh, huge. Oh, I see. But yeah, Halo 3 for me. I mean, the Halo Hog streams we did this year were a lot of fun and a good excuse to revisit this series. And I'd be totally open to picking them back up someday or playing something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna hold my tongue on this one because I might have some more to add later, but pal, glad you liked Halo 3.
I love it. Is this going to be a scenario where you're like, someone's like, who's your best friend? And then they're thinking you, and then you list them as your third best friend sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
We're gearing up for a tragedy. My number 3 is another PS2 game. This is my third PS2 game on the list, and fourth if you count Persona 4, which originally came out on the PS2. And this is a game called Onimusha.
Oh,
Onimusha, I played. It was very topical. I cannot believe we got an Onimusha announcement. Just very weirdly. It was like I just started thinking about this game again. Played through the entire first game, which you can do in about 5 hours. I was playing it around Halloween time. It's a very it's spooky adjacent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like it's sort of a Resident Evil like game, but you're just so powerful in it that it's not that scary. It's kind of like Devil May Cry or something where it's, there's not really scary about it, but you are fighting like ghouls and ghosts and demons and stuff.
Yes.
It's got a spooky vibe. And then I remember Roxy and I on a podcast sort of talking about Onimusha a little bit because she was talking about her being such a fan of the series and hoping that it comes back. And lo and behold, it did. We manifested it, Connor. It's done. It's coming out. New Onimusha game, but don't sleep on that old one. In fact, you can get it on anything now. You can get it on Switch, PS5, whatever. Onimusha, they've restored it, done a little HD remake of it. It's that's not the one I played though. I did play it on original PS2 and had a great freaking time with it. Love it so much.
That game, it may have come up on our 2001 A Space Solace episode that we did.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a 2001 game.
Is it 2000?
Maybe the US release was 2001.
Yeah, that seems
so we
right. We
discussed it at some point.
Gotta know. Warlords did come out in 2001.
Okay. Yeah. That was your number 3. My number 2, Jeremy. We're finally dipping in to games we covered in a big way on this network. And number 2 for me is Death Stranding.
Oh, nice.
A game that truly is, even as we walk away from it, I keep thinking, is this my favorite? Does this supplant Metal Gear Solid as my favorite Kojima title? Perhaps. That was one of the most fun games clubs and most unexpectedly fun games clubs that we've ever done on the network. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts, listener, please check out that series. It's available for $5 DJ Toads and up, all 11 episodes covering that entire game. But yeah, a game that I expected that I would at least find interesting, and it turns out it absolutely blew me away, and I loved it for all of its warts and all. I think it's such a special game, and the last 2 games on my list are games that are knocking on my top 20 personal favorites, even though Fable, which is on my list, is on that top 20. It's just I didn't spend to have as meaningful of a time with it as I did these final 4, but yeah, my number 2 is Death Stranding.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that. My top few are also I would consider in my top 20 of all time, and you're gonna laugh when we get to the first one. But
okay, cool.
Number 2 for me is of course Halo 3.
Oh,
are you kidding? Gosh, and honestly, this would have been my number 1 of the year had it not been for my actual number 1, which again you're gonna laugh. But Halo 3 was my favorite experience playing a game.
Nice.
This year, I mean, that all had to do with us streaming it and us playing it. And by the time we got to Halo 3, we had put up with some of the older mechanics of 1 and 2, and we're so ready for that next gen upgrade that Halo 3 gets, and had such a fantastic time with it. And I think this would have been Halo Reach if we had finished Halo Reach.
There's a really good chance at that. Yes.
Yeah, it could have surpassed it, but Halo 3 for me, these are one of 2 games that were my top 2. Of course, this and Overcooked were games that I played with other people, other human beings, and had such a great time with them. So
yeah, it's like a third of my list is games like that this year, which I always think of myself as, and partly that is because of the rules I put on this list, is only one games club, only one co-op, but still, I think I played more games with people this year than I normally do, and the Halo Hogs was the highlight of that. So
totally
killer, Jeremy. Well, I'll go ahead and just list my my number one favorite game from the game of the year, not from this year for me, is Half-Life 2.
Whoa.
And for me personally, that includes the episodes 1 and 2 that came after it, because I played those as well for the March co-op episode. We got the whole Half-Life crew back together. But dude, even the more I've been thinking about this game lately, especially because they just released a little Half-Life 2 documentary from Valve on YouTube recently. Did you happen to catch this for the 20th anniversary?
I didn't see it, but I didn't even know it existed.
Dude, it's awesome. But I've just been in I've been in that Valve headspace, and I also replayed Portals 1 and 2. Oh no, I replayed Portal 2 this year, which is a top 10 favorite game for me. There's something in me that it has me toying with Half-Life 2 kind of taking Portal 2's place. I think Portal 2 might be wild. I know, it might be a more perfect game and a cleaner experience, but just the magic of Half-Life 2 and all that you can do. And this is, again, a game I do not have nostalgia for. It was the first time I ever played it this year. And boy, I just can't sing its praises enough. Like, a remarkable title, a game that gives you so much, what feels like so much control when you are truly in such a linear experience. Yeah. And yeah, it's one that I've thought about it's probably the game I've thought about the most since, the farther I get away from it, I continue to think about it. So Half-Life 2, and again, that includes episodes 1 and 2. They're really important for the story. Yeah. That's
unbelievable. I'm so jealous of this number one. I mean, I've never played Half-Life 2 and just want nothing more than to do that.
Dude, someday. It has me, you're talking about earlier how you get your little VR fix over the holidays every year. Right. I want I think it's might be available on multiple VR platforms, but I really want to play Half-Life Alyx someday.
Yes. Oh, and that will complete the whole thing.
Yes.
And then you've done all the Valve stuff. I guess, I don't know. Because what else is it? The Team Fortress, obviously Counter-Strike, and then there's
Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead. Do those
They did the original one, I think.
Yeah. Do those have stuff about Aperture and the different Black Mesa in them?
I do not think so.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't believe they do. I think it's just
the Black Mesa Aperture stuff. That's the stuff.
It's so good. It's funny. I was on the last episode that came out. Me and guest Charles Ingram were talking about how there were heavy rumors leading up to the Game Awards that Valve was going to be announcing Half-Life 3. And Jeremy, wouldn't you know, didn't happen.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll continue to be gone wanting. Jeremy, what is this game that's topping your list?
My number one is... It has to be my number one, and it is a 3-way tie. I'm so sorry. But my number one is, and I was cracking up when because I keep a list of everything I play and watch every year.
Yes.
We'll get into that later. But I keep this list, and when I was going through the list of all the games I played this year, I was like, it was cracking me up that I even did this, because this is so wild. My number one is Super Mario World, Link to the Past, and Super Metroid. I played all three of them fucking games this year, dude.
Were they spaced out?
Why did I even do that? I don't even know.
Was this kind of back to back to back that you did this?
Yes, I played all three of them back to back to back. I played them on that beautiful Super NT. I think it was just kind of a slow beginning of the year, and I just cruised through them.
Yeah,
and had a great time, and didn't want to stop with Super Metroid, so I finished Link to the Past. Didn't want to stop with that, played Super Mario World, and of course they're my number one. Them's the three best games ever made, probably.
I mean, together they make the Triforce of the Super Nintendo. And
100%. Yeah.
I replayed Super Metroid at the very end of last year.
Nice.
As I was re-listening to our Game of the Year episodes, which I've listened back to both of them from last year at this point, I talk about it for some reason, but I haven't replayed. The one I haven't gone back to is Link to the Past since our Zelda Games Club. And
Yeah.
I think I know it well enough now to where I could just blow through it. And
hell yeah.
Jeremy, that is quite the tie for number one. I love it. Well, what if let's go down and list 9 to 1. Let's recap our list. I'll go first. Let me go ahead and pull this up again here. Number 9 for me, again, these are my top 9 games of the year, not from 2024. We have NBA Live 2005 as number 9. Number 8, Uncharted. Number 7, Mario Party Superstars. Number 6, Star Fox 64. Number 5, Fable: The Lost Chapters. Number 4, my cheat, Backyard Baseball 97. Number 3, Halo 3. Number 2, Death Stranding. And number 1, Half-Life 2, including episodes 1 and 2. Jeremy, let's get a recap of your list.
Of course, this is my top 9 games not from 2024 that I played. This is number 9. We have Tekken 5, 8, Power Stone, 7, Overcooked, 6, Bomberman 94, 5, Dark Cloud, 4, Persona 4 Golden, 3 is Onimusha, 2 is Halo 3, 1 is a 3-way split between Super Mario World, Link to the Past, and Super Metroid.
Wow. I'm already wondering, Jeremy, what are these lists going to look like next year?
We'll have to see.
You're going to have to wait, 52 weeks, dear listener. At least. Yeah, we're going to make you wait even longer next year. That's going to do it for this episode of Call Me By Your Game. Jeremy, thank you for joining me today, buddy.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
On your way out, what would you like to plug?
Oh, just listen to Video Games and Comedy, show anywhere podcasts can be found. Specifically, the Game of the Year, you'll see this bright young lad on both of those episodes, as well as the episode we did before that, which was our top 9 games that we missed from 2024. It makes a great companion to this episode. Of course, if you're subscribed to the Patreon, it's all there in that one beautiful RSS feed. RSS feed. Yeah, okay. Anyway, patreon.com/Super NPC Radio. I'm sure you'll talk about it, but don't walk. Run, don't walk.
Of course. Get over there. Well, thank you, Jeremy. As for me and the show, and of course, anything we plug is going to be, again, in a link in the show notes, so it's very easy to find if you go to the episode, whether it's you're watching on YouTube or listening on a podcast catcher. Call Me By Your Game cover art is done by Glenn J. You can find him and his other great work on Instagram at Glenn with 2 N's.jay. You can follow the show all over social media at Call Me By Your Game. And that we're on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Give us a follow at all those platforms, especially our YouTube. If you're an audio listener, even if you're not going to watch the videos, go give us a subscription. I'm trying to get up to 100 YouTube subs or whatever they're called. So yeah, find our YouTube channel. It's honestly, I love when I re-listen to these episodes, I like to watch the video because it's fun to see the weird faces we make. The show, or the network, is also all over social media. Follow us at Super NPC Radio everywhere. You can follow me on social media at Connor McCabe or Connor_McCabe. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConsIsCool69. And like Jeremy said, if you like this podcast, you've got to check out what we have for you on Patreon. That's a place where you can support us. Even at the free tier, you get something. If you sign up at the free level, you get all of our free network shows in one little podcast feed, plus the occasional little bonus dollop. And at the $1 tier and up, a ton of other bonus. You get the Games Club at the $5 tier, my bonus co-ops at the $10 tier. You got to check it out if you like this. And yeah, that's really going to do it. Patreon.com/Super NPC Radio. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.